participating in this music marathon. And let's turn it into something like a skating competition. Who liked movie number 1? Hands up. Oh. Thumbs down for movie number 1. How about movie number 2? Oh, I see more hands. But who hated the first movie? Oh, no? You like the first movie? How about the second one? The second one too. 25 points or 18? We are going to have 2 more panelists. A faculty member from USC Thornton School of Music, Veronika Krausas, who is a composer, and another panelist who is traveled from Poland, the land of Chopin, who is a film composer and distinguished conductor. He's equally at home with classical music, jazz, and everything else. Conducting, playing piano, playing violin. His music was heard about 2 weeks ago here at Thornton School of Music at USC. Paderewski Lecture. That Paderewski Lecture is a flagship event for the Polish Music Center every year. And I would like to, now I see that Veronika is here. It almost reminds me of that German song from the 1920s, Veronika der Lenz da. A very, very fun film. Anyway, let's welcome Veronika Krausas. And after that, Krzesimir Dębski from Poland. You're both there. Well, since I have 2 great experts, do we need music? Let's start with that. Well, do we need music?
Say that again?
Do we need music?
What for?
Yes.
In what context?
We need music because of competitions. No, that's silly. I think that music, like any art, is something that's just a matter of self-expression. That sounds terribly serious, but I think we all, in some way, whether we're paid to be artistic or musical, we just do that. I mean, kids run around and hop and jump. As I was walking over here, I saw a young student just sort of skipping along by herself for no apparent reason. And you look at that and you think, this is an expression. And it's something that it almost oozes out of us. So sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, and we each have different ways of expressing that, some musically and some in other ways.
So, Krzesimir,
I think people are lost now. Music is so abstractive, it's so rich world, and so people looking for qualification, they're looking for competitions. Who is better, who is worse, which music is better, more important, which style is dead or reborn. So it's natural tendency of humanity, of people, to have scale. This is most important or not, bad or good. That's why we have tragedy with music, with players and conductors and jurors.
So how many, to follow on this thought, how many of you think that competitions make it easier for you, the public, to hear music or to judge music? 2 votes. How nice. I think competitions should be banned.
Was your original question why music or why music competition?
Well, my original question was why music?
Oh, okay.
Because competitions are perhaps a way to deliver music to the public, right?
I have something to add to that. I was just recently in Fort Worth, Texas, and the director of the Fort Worth Opera was talking about submissions that he received from various opera composers. I was there as an opera composer. And he was talking with the people who had been selected for that particular festival. And the first thing he said to everyone was, "I don't like strawberry ice cream." And I thought, I hate strawberry ice cream. Why is he telling us what kind of ice cream he likes? And he said, it doesn't matter if you give me the best strawberry ice cream in the world, I still won't like it because I just don't like strawberry ice cream. And he said the same thing was true with festivals often is, you can give the best strawberry ice cream to the jury, and that's just not in their realm of aesthetic choices or likes, dislikes. So it doesn't necessarily reflect badly on the piece because that piece might get chosen or that pianist might get chosen for the next particular festival. So it is, we are human and we are subjective. I don't think it's entirely possible to be completely objective, and that's just part of life.
I guess I haven't grown up yet. What were your reactions to the Górecki phenomenon? Because, one strange fact about Górecki is that when he was young and he was writing a very modernistic, aleatoric, confrontational music. His music was actually played at the most prestigious music festival, Warszawska Jesień, Warsaw Autumn. It's the #1 festival, just like the Chopin competition for pianists. Warszawska Jesień Festival is the festival for modern music. So at that point, his music was played. The minute he started writing a totally different contemplative music, he was never invited to Warszawska Jesień again. And yet, somehow, his Third Symphony percolated through completely different channels and made a phenomenal success, and was, much revered by people who have very little to do with music sometimes. So now, what are your thoughts on that and on the need for competition? Do you have any questions, reactions? Because we have to get out of here in 15 minutes, so I'm speeding things along a little. Yes?
In the matter of competitions, perhaps more than music is involved in making a soloist, a concert pianist. Some people, like one in the, I forget his name, he said he wasn't ready, he didn't want to be a soloist, he was glad he didn't make the finals. So do competitions do any decent job at actually identifying people who will be successful in that kind of career, as opposed to their musical qualities?
Well, Krzesimir is a conductor. Veronika, what are your thoughts on that?
I was present during premiere of Górecki's third symphony on Warsaw Autumn Festival in 1977. It was a huge scandal. Audience prepared for really contemporary music, like everybody wrote at the time. So it was beep, oh, they got long notes made by Górecki. I'm sure with this third symphony he will be never get any prize on competitions for composers, because it looks so simple. It's just only few notes on the page, and it's not interesting for jurors on other composers making 100,000 marks on each page. If you see modern contemporary composition scores, they are full of marks, full of competitions for composers. It's a competition of who made more marks on the page. Yeah, it's another story. Should be released a film about composers competition. This is a scandal.
On your mark, go.
So it's another story.
Veronika, you are a very successful composer who has lots of commissions. Maybe you could do something.
A lot of marks, or less now.
It depends how sharp the pencil is. But the interesting thing about that I think you were talking about the gentleman in the back. What you made me think of something. when you don't succeed at a competition or you're against all odds and people don't like what you do, or Górecki writes his third symphony that all of a sudden all the modernists and all the academic circles poo because it's not difficult enough, it doesn't have enough black dots, or it's too burp and fart, or whatever it is. That almost can spur you on, because if you really do want to do it, you'll go for it anyway, regardless of what people say. And sometimes the public needs to catch up, because creators or performers, or even Pogorelic, I mean, regardless of the fact he's a cuckoo, which was very well portrayed in the documentary, the thing is, he's a brilliant pianist. So, is he doing something, or is that performer creator doing something that is in advance of what we understand or what we can follow, that will then, the public will catch up to later. So I guess that's what it is with innovation or creation, that I don't think you can ever be at exactly the same level as everyone else, otherwise you're not really inventing anything new or presenting a different perspective, perhaps.
Well, one thing about composers participating in competitions is that you write your work and it has more or less marks per page or per square inch, dots per square inch to be totally modern. And
DPI.
DPI, dots per inch, yes indeed. The resolution, the so-called resolution, yes. And so that is submitted to some jury, some wise men, perhaps some hairless man like me. They look at things, they nod their heads, they drink their coffees and whiskeys, and then they say, we like this, we don't like this, he is a friend of so-and-so, and that goes. But, as a performer in a competition, it's a totally different ballgame, because you have to do something live, and it's like that, triple axel that you suddenly have to do in front of the public. And I see at least two of my friends who are smiling. One is a distinguished cellist, Marek Żebrowski, and the other one is Wojtek Kozjan here, both participants in competitions and successful winners of competitions. So it is maybe Wojtek, would you say something about how participating in competitions is in terms of being on stage and having to perform your best?
I would like to just answer by saying that having experienced competitions on both sides, should I stand up? Thank you. That works. Yes. Thank you. Well, yes, it's true. I have participated in some competitions, and I was successful in some, and I was not successful in many more. I organized competitions as well, and I participated as a judge. So this movie was very interesting for me to watch, and I thought it was very well made. Made some very, very interesting points and very important points. But I think that if we only take the competitive aspect into consideration, yes, the competitions should be abolished, because there is a lot of harm that comes out of that. If you're eliminated, that's not necessarily a good moment for you psychologically, emotionally, and a lot of people get damaged in that way. But I think that a competition is much more than a competition. I think it's a meeting place for young people. It's a meeting place for the audience. It's a meeting place for the judges. It's a place where ideas are discussed, ideas emerge, and that's not a bad thing. We don't have conferences in music. In every other profession, people go to conferences. Let's say that you're a physicist. You go to a conference and you go to present your ideas. You also go to promote your career. Things are discussed. But it's also a place where you get to know your colleagues. For young musicians, how do they get to know their colleagues of international stature, of their own age, at competitions? They're not invited to festivals. There's not enough place for everybody to go to a festival and perform. So they meet in Italy, and they play, they listen to each other, they learn from each other. They learn from the comments that they get from the jurors, whether they agree or not. The judges actually learn from listening to competitions. Ideas are discussed. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is that even if somebody doesn't make a concert career, that doesn't mean that they should stop being a musician. There are many places in the world for a musician to function.
Including golf clubs and tennis clubs, right?
Not necessarily. Some of them become teachers.
Oh dear.
And they're very much needed. I think that sometimes we suffer from the idea that unless you can be a pope, then you should not function in any other way. There is only one pope. But pope cannot function without all the people around him, below him, and so on. So people who were eliminated in competitions, they find their own way. And in building a career, even of the, let's say, lesser kind, participation in the competition, getting a fourth prize instead of the first prize, is important. You cannot discount that. You can't say that only what is at stake here is to find a person who will have an international career, and if we can't find an objective way of doing that, we should abolish the whole system.
Well, yes, but you remember that point where someone was eliminated in the Tchaikovsky and won Leeds shortly thereafter. Or you can imagine these days where rankings are everything, and we constantly get announcement that so-and-so's silly video had 2 million views on the YouTube, and then something else, which is just as nice, is not being shown. We have a question there? Yes.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick comments in regards to what you just said. Why competitions? I think competitions are just another form of filter, and maybe more educated form of filters. But I think we all need some form of filters. For example, so on YouTube, there are a lot of these musicians that are trying to create their own, fame and success. And I think that one of the pianists is a ballerina. I can't remember, but she's now got a contract with that Deccan. So there are lots of other pianists that are trying to follow in her footsteps. But now we have like 10,000 other pianists that are trying to follow, and now we can't possibly keep track, follow all of those. So I think competition server first, and there are lots of other filters too that perform that filter. And just a second quick comment. I just wanted to mention that Frank Tyson's niece here is in the audience today, and I think that was his uncle wasn't quite portrayed accurately. He was trying to say that I come from a very humble origin in a small village, but then the way it was portrayed, it came across as like, I'm not deserving of this, I'm naive, I don't know what I'm doing here, how did I get this? So I think it was kind of distorted.
There's a question behind you first, and then we go here to the lady in front.
It's more a comment. I'd like to weigh in because my relative has 2 famous competitions in Poland, both in the conducting and composing arenas. I see benefits and disadvantages to competitions both. So, but it's a question of weighing the benefit over the disadvantage.
Where do you hold it?
Very famous composers of Polish origin, like Penderecki and Górecki, both won the Petersburg composing competition. But then, on the other hand, I had a friend who was the prize winner of the conducting competition, and then he entered one year and won first prize, and then didn't even come close to placing in any qualifying round. And he's very talented as a composer. So it can go either way, and it does have social value where these competitors actually become very close friends and help each other in their music careers. So in that area, not everyone is going to win the gold medal or the silver medal or bronze medal, but they do have a special bond between them.
All right. Could we pass the microphone to the lady in front? We have only 5 more minutes, so.
The 3 of you have a strong knowledge of music competition. I wanted to ask about competition in general. With your knowledge of what music competition is like, when you view competitions in other fields that you're not familiar with at all, are you able to look at it and believe that the the winner is the best. Let's say you're watching as a layperson a gymnastics competition or diving or dancing, and you're particularly impressed by the flair of somebody who is good, but they've also impressed you with their artistic flair. But they come in with low points or they don't even bronze. Do you think to yourself, my judgment as a lay person must be off, the person is probably not as good, and the judges know the fineries? Or do you think to yourself, with what I know of what music competition is like, I bet the same stuff is going on behind the scenes? Can you look at it without a jaundiced eye?
Oh, Veronica.
I've been on both ends of competitions, both as a competitor and as a judge. And when I think you did hit the nail on the head, because often when you watch other competitions, there'll be commentators who, you know, for instance, gymnastics, and they'll say, oh, yes, and that double, triple flip of the blah, blah, blah was great, but their landing was off, and you'll go, oh, their landing was off, yes, I see what you mean, you know, it was 1 inch toe difference or something. So you sort of pick up on...
Toe out of turn.
The toe out of turn. Yeah, you sometimes pick up on that stuff, but I think at a certain level of excellence in any field that you... I mean, the differences are so slight. You know, think about swimming competitions and Michael Phelps winning by, you know, how many millions of a second. So
I mean the untimed competitions.
Yeah, I know. I know. I just use that as an example because you said diving or something, I guess. But you know, I think it is a little bit more subjective, and sometimes you think, oh, I don't agree with them because yes, and you think yes, it could be something that has to do with politics.
Krzesimir.
I can say something which was one of the jurors. He said, let's stop shooting now and I will tell you through. So I was dozen times in juries, different kind of jury, musical jury, compositions, artistic, pianist, violinist, and it will be a very sad relation, but most of jurors are tired of their job. Can you imagine they traveling from the competition to competition? So 8 hours of listening to music and then another, where I am, who is playing? Most of them are very big egos, so they are not interested in listening to young people. Well, what they play is always the young generation must be worse than our generation. Our time was better, and what they do. So even among them, most important is a good-looking person, and the musical quality is. I noticed it's the last thing very interesting.
Well, you know, I must say to conclude very quickly, I must say that I find judging art and music especially rather difficult because I find it very subjective. When I go to museums, I sometimes pass by hundreds of paintings of sculptures, but suddenly I'm drawn to something. And I try to understand why I like it, and why would I like it so much that I would like to go home with it. And that's human nature, and I don't know whether competitions can actually be fair about it to people who actually put their hearts and their minds and their talents and everything they lay it out bare for the public. They lay it bare for you. And I hope that those artists that want to reach the public will reach you and will move you and will provide you with experience that was as excellent as this afternoon. We can discuss more in the vestibule. The screenings must go on, but the discussion should also continue. Thank you.
We're just going to take a quick 2 minutes to reset in here, and then we're going to start after math as soon as possible.
Thank you.